I think it's a very, very progressive step, and the background is that in 2011 there was an appeal by a criminal who had brutally assaulted a sex worker. So naturally, his appeal was dismissed, and apart from the criminal action, the Supreme Court was concerned about issue about women who are involved in sex work, and they set up a committee. So this has been going on since 2011, and repeatedly the committee was giving recommendations. Now in 2016, when they gave their recommendations to the Supreme Court, the government said that we have already incorporated these recommendations in the law. But apparently they hadn't. So that's why things, kind of escalated. And this recent judgment, which we're all talking about, in which the committee has made some specific 10 recommendations. And the Supreme Court's very concerned. And the fact that they have acknowledged that commercial sex work, which is consensual by consenting adults, amounts to work and they should not be criminalized. I think that's a very progressive step.
Yeah.
It started the conversation. Though, of course, the government is saying they want time to reply and they're not very, they have already said that we cannot comply with the recommendations. But the Supreme Court has been very stern on them. And what they have said is that every person is entitled to a right to dignity, life, dignity, under Article 21.
Charu, you talk about the profession being legal. Is the money that prostitutes make, is that considered is that considered legal gain?
Actually, it's a very grey area, and it's a very strange anomaly that the woman is earning. Who is she earning for? Herself and her family, her children. But living off the earnings of a prostitute is illegal. In other words, her children can go to jail. Her mother can go to jail. And most parents, they know about what their daughter is doing. But maybe they're quiet about it, or maybe they suspect that she's involved in this, because where is she getting the money? What is her job? Nature of her job. But so that's making everyone criminal in the whole process. And it's very strange that we have an act which is called the Immoral Traffic Prevention Act. It's an act to prevent trafficking, but it does not define what is trafficking. And the entire act, in the definition, it starts with brothel. And then it goes on to talk about protective homes, special police officers, special magistrates. Now, it also says that if 2 or more women are working for gain, then it becomes a brothel, which is strange. So if I'm living alone and doing commercial sex work, that place is not a brothel. But if my friend, because there's safety in numbers. So if 2 women are working together or living together or co-partners, then it becomes a criminal act.
Extraordinary. How, do police uphold the safety that is enshrined in that act, that it is legal for prostitutes to have that protection and go about that work?
The act doesn't talk about any legality, it talks more about the illegalities without defining the act, without defining what is commercial sex work or what is prostitution. It goes on it's immoral. The act's name, the nomenclature is immoral trafficking. So embedded in it is a morality rather than a legal framework. And one thing I would say is very important and good is that the Supreme Court has very clearly stated in this present judgment that children should not be separated from their mothers. While detaining persons in premises of Section 6, which talks about detaining persons in premises where prostitution is carried on, if a child is found, it is assumed that the child is there for the purpose of sexual exploitation and will be taken to a corrective or protective home. So I think it's a little bit more humane approach is required. And by making this kind of statement, the Supreme Court has, I think, led the way for the government. But what will happen in the future is something only we will know the next day.
And it's extraordinary, as you said at the beginning, Charu, that in fact the government says, well, they're not sure that they can actually comply with what the Supreme Court has ruled.
They very clearly, they are actually, it's not the Supreme Court has ruled, there are 10 specific recommendations.
Right.
Like I said, it started out with the rehabilitation, but the scope of the committee has expanded. And they are a little, because, when we are talking about when the word morality comes into play, then it becomes very difficult in our country to take the opposing stands are taken, and it becomes very difficult to legislate on that. And one of the very specific, like you were saying that it's legal, I said it's not illegal, but like Section 7 of the Act says, prostitution in the vicinity of a public place or a religious place or a hospital or a nursing home or a hostel, you can be penalized for 3 months. But anywhere else, you can conduct sex work. I mean, that is a natural implication.
Extraordinary.
So there's a lot of negative, definitions.
Yes, and very, as you say, a lot of judgment still continuing around it. Charu, appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.